Hi everyone, I am here at tonight's Bible study. I hope you're having a good night. You behave, Sherm. Sherm just got his first COVID vaccine here a few minutes ago. Please keep Sherm in your prayers. Looking kind of pale there. He's feeling nauseous. Please keep him in your prayers because he has bad allergic reactions to almost everything. Let's pray that doesn't happen. Pray he's going to be alright with that. I'm not able to get mine yet. Okay, so tonight the devotion is by Gwen Ford Falconberry again. And we'll be in the book of Matthew chapter 26 tonight. And the verse Gwen picked out to go with her devotion is Matthew 26 verse 10. And it says, "But Jesus said to them, 'Why do you trouble the woman? For she has done a beautiful thing to me.'" We know who he's referring to in that moment, right? I think we just read that in, the Bible reading maybe the other day? Or one of the Bible studies here. He's talking about the woman that she was a sinful woman, but we're all sinners. She came and put that expensive perfume on Jesus, remember? And washed his feet with her tears and dried them with her hair. And the disciples were like, this perfume could have been sold and money given to the poor. You know, it's because it was worth a lot. Like a year's wages, just for that thing of perfume. And Jesus is like, leave her alone. She has done a wonderful thing to me. She's getting me ready for my burial. And he said, in honor of her, wherever the gospel is preached, this will be told about her, to honor her for what she has done. And it is, as we'll read today. Alright, so let's go to Matthew 26, where I will here, and I'll read it to you guys. So you go follow along. Why? The plot against Jesus, they were always plotting, wasn't they? All the time. Jesus anointed at Bethany. You know what this is leading up to? This is Holy Week. So we're getting close to the arrest, the crucifixion, and the resurrection. Judas agrees to betray Jesus. The Lord's Supper. Jesus predicts Peter's denial. Gethsemane. Jesus arrested. Before the Sanhedrin, Peter disowns Jesus. So we've got a lot to read tonight. Alright. I always pronounce that wrong. I'm sorry. I always say Gethsemane. It's not Gethsemane. It's... Sherm always corrects me. It's Gethsemane. Sorry. Gethsemane. When Jesus had finished saying all these things, he said to his disciples, "As you know, the Passover is 2 days away, and the Son of Man will be handed over to be crucified." Then the chief priests and the elders, the people assembled in the palace of the high priest, whose name was Caiaphas that year, and they plotted to arrest Jesus in some sly way and kill him. But not during the feast, they said, or there may be a riot among the people. While Jesus was in Bethany, in the home of a man known as Simon the leper, a woman came to him with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume, which she poured on his head as he was reclining at the table. When the disciples saw this, they were indignant, which means they were kind of mad. "Why this waste?" they asked. "This perfume could have been sold at a high price and the money given to the poor." Aware of this, Jesus said to them, "Why are you bothering this woman? She has done a beautiful thing to me. The poor you will always have with you, but you will not always have me. When she poured this perfume on my body, she did it to prepare for me for my burial. I tell you the truth, wherever this gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her. Now we're getting to Judas Ascarite, because there were two Judases that were Jesus' disciples, remember. Judas Ascarite is the betrayer. Then one of the 12, the one called Judas Ascarite, went to the chief priests and asked, "What are you willing to give me if I hand him over to you?" They didn't even ask him. He went to them, saying, "If I hand him over to you, what will you give me?" So they counted out for him 30 silver coins. From then on, Judas watched for an opportunity to hand him over. And when Jesus gets arrested and Judas sees that Jesus has been condemned and things, that they're going to kill him, he tries to give the money back. Like, well, I mean, why does he felt guilty, tried to give the money back, and he went out and hung himself? They wouldn't take the money back. And what did he think was going to happen? That's what I thought. You're handing him over to be arrested. You know they want to kill him. Judas, what did you think was going to happen? On the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Where do you want us to make preparations for you to eat the Passover?" He replied, "Go into the city to a certain man and tell him, 'The teacher says, my appointed time is near. I am going to celebrate the Passover with my disciples at your house.'" So the disciples did as Jesus had directed them and prepared the Passover. It was in some guy's house, and it had a nice big upper room. Nice big upper room. Because you gotta remember, there's 12 disciples there and Jesus. So they've got to have a big room and a big table for them all to, sit around and eat the Last Supper. When evening came, Jesus was reclining at the table with the 12, and while they were eating, he said, "I tell you the truth, one of you will betray me." He already knew who it was. They were very sad and began to say to him one after the other, "Surely not I, Lord." You think this would have scared Judas Ascarite, wouldn't you? Oh, he is the Son of God. He knows that I betrayed him. But it didn't. It didn't. It didn't face him at all, apparently. Jesus replied, "The one who has dipped his hand into the bowl with me will betray me. The Son of Man will go just as it is written about him. But woe to that man who betrays the Son of Man. It would be better for him if he had not been born." Then Judas, the one who would betray him, said, "Surely not I, Rabbi." Jesus answered, "Yes, it is you." While they were eating, Jesus took bread, gave thanks, and broke it, and gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take and eat. This is my body." Then he took the cup, gave thanks, and offered it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you. This is my blood of the new covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. I tell you, I will not drink of this fruit of the vine from now on until the day when I drink it anew with you in my Father's kingdom." When they had sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. And Jesus, he had to have been sad here. He knows the time's getting near. Yes, he was going to be resurrected. He knew this. But still, he's in human form. human body that experiences pain just as we do. He was a human being in human form. He knew what he was going to have to go through. Who would not be scared, knowing what's about to take place? And he had to have been sad that Judas, one of his own, turned on him. And now he's going to be sad because he knows Peter's going to deny him. Then Jesus told them, "This very night you will all fall away on account of me, for it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I have risen, I will go ahead of you into Galilee." Peter replied, "Even if all fall away on account of you, I never will." "I tell you the truth," Jesus answered, "this very night, before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. But Peter declared, "Even if I have to die with you, I will never disown you." And all the other disciples said the same. There's a lot of people there. One person got so scared they flew out of there, took off, and their undergarment or something fell off, and they was running out of there naked. All the disciples fled, but Peter followed at a distance to see what was going on. Gethsemane. Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He prayed a lot that night, which he always prayed a lot. But this night he really kept going back and praying and praying. He knew tonight was the night. It was getting near. He didn't have to do it for us. God would have took him back to heaven and been like, okay, it's fine. But Jesus wanted to die for us. God gave his only son for us, to die for us, for our sins. Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He took Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me." Going a little farther, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as you will." Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. "Could you men not keep watch with me for 1 hour?" he asked Peter. "Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the body is weak." It's so true. Those are such true words that set with me so well. There's so many things I want to do. So many things I want to do. But my body won't let me. And it makes me so mad. I get so frustrated. Seeing everybody else, be able to do the littlest things like just walking around outside in a store and everything. Oh, I'm planning on going out this summer, I'm going to go here and go there. You can't even walk down the sidewalk, girl. He went away a second time and prayed, "My Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken away unless I drink it, may your will be done." When he came back, he again found them sleeping because their eyes were heavy. So he left them and went away once more and prayed the 3rd time, saying the same thing. Then he returned to the disciples and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Look, the hour is near, and the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go." Here comes my betrayer. He knew they were coming, right at the exact minute they were coming. While he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. It makes me so mad. With him was a large crowd armed with swords and clubs, like a mob. Judas and his mob came after Jesus, sent from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Now the betrayer had arranged a signal with them. The one I kiss is the man, arrest him. Going at once to Jesus, Judas said, "Greetings, Rabbi," and kissed him. He always called Jesus Rabbi, Judas Ascarite. Jesus replied, "Friend, do what you came for." Then the men stepped forward, seized Jesus, and arrested him. With that, one of Jesus' companions reached for his sword, drew it out, and struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his ear. "Put your sword back in its place," Jesus said to him, "for all who draw the sword will die by the sword. Do you think I cannot call on my Father, and he will at once put at my disposal more than 12 legions of angels? But how then will the scriptures be fulfilled that say it must happen in this way?" At that time, Jesus said to the crowd, "Am I leading a rebellion that you have come out with swords and clubs to capture me? Every day I sat in the temple courts teaching, and you did not arrest me. But this has all taken place, that the writings of the prophets might be fulfilled." Then all the disciples deserted him and fled. Those who had arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the teachers of the law and the elders had assembled. It's going to start getting... These parts are just sad and make me mad at the same time. Every time. When we get reading up to this. The Holy Week. These passages, the things that they've done to him. The way they treated him. They could have just crucified him and not done all that other hurtful, mean, torturous things to him. You'll see what I mean if it tells all of it. There'll be more. Not today. But Peter followed him at a distance, right up to the courtyard of the high priest. He entered and sat down with the guards to see the outcome. The chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for false evidence against Jesus so that they could put him to death. But they did not find any, though many false witnesses came forward. Liars. And God doesn't like those. He doesn't like people giving false testimony about someone. Finally, 2 came forward and declared, "This fellow said, I am able to destroy the temple of God and rebuild it in 3 days." Which Jesus did say that. But he was not talking about God's temple, the church there. He was not talking about the church. He was talking about God's temple, his body. Your body is God's temple. That's what he was talking about. He was talking about his body being his temple and about it going to be crucified and then resurrected in 3 days. That's what he meant by saying, "I am able to destroy the temple of God and rebuild it in 3 days." But of course they don't understand this. Then the high priest stood up and said to Jesus, "Are you not going to answer? What is this testimony that these men are bringing against you?" But Jesus remained silent. The high priest said to him, "I charge you under oath by the living God. Tell us if you are the Christ, the Son of God." "Yes, it is as you say," Jesus replied. "But I say to all of you, in the future you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven." Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, "He has spoken blasphemy. Why do we need any more witnesses? Look, now you have heard that blasphemy. What do you think?" "He is worthy of death," they answered. Then they spit in his face and struck him with their fists. Others slapped him and said, "Prophesy to us, Christ. Who hit you?" Now Peter was sitting out in the courtyard, and a servant girl came to him. She said, "You also were with Jesus of Galilee," she said. But he denied it before them all. "I don't know what you are talking about," he said. He was afraid. Something was gonna happen to him. That's the only reason he's denying him. Remember, Jesus said Peter would deny him 3 times before the rooster crowed. Peter's like, "No, I'll go down to death for you. I would never do that." Then he went out on the gateway, where another girl saw him and said to the people there, "This fellow was with Jesus of Nazareth." He denied it again with an oath, "I don't know the man." After a little while, those standing there went up to Peter and said, "Well, surely you are one of them, for your accent gives you away." Then he began to call down curses on himself, and he swore to them, "I don't know the man." It's 3 times. And immediately a rooster crowed. Then Peter remembered the word Jesus had spoken, "Before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times." And he went outside and wept bitterly. And could you, at that moment, the 3rd time that happened, and the rooster crowed, and Peter remembered what Jesus said. Peter looking up and seeing Jesus standing there, all beaten up and bloody, staring back at him. But Jesus never stopped loving Peter. Never. And Peter never stopped loving Jesus. He was just scared. You don't know what you're going to do. You can't. A lot of people say, if it was me, I wouldn't have done that, or I would have done it this way, or this or that. People say that all the time about things, but you do not know what you would do unless you were in that situation for yourself. You do not know. I don't care what anybody says. You don't know unless you're put in that situation yourself. It's easy to say something, but it's harder to do it. Easier said than done. Alright, that was all of 26. Now let's go see what Gwen has to say here. Wednesday of Holy Week is less detailed in the Gospels than some of the other days, but what we are privy to is a powerful scene that becomes a metaphor for what will happen on the cross. A terrible and beautiful thing. We are told that Jesus spent time at the house of Simon the leper, where a woman came up and poured a flask of expensive perfume on his feet. The disciples fussed about it, suggesting it was too expensive for such a frivolous act. They thought it should have been sold and the money used for the poor. It's funny to me that they do this, because I think it sounds spiritual. It sounds like something they thought they should say because they were experts on kingdom economy. But Jesus wasn't impressed. Instead, he was blessed by the woman. He told the disciples not to trouble her. She had done a beautiful thing. I cannot pretend to understand all the implications of this. Why this time Jesus wasn't concerned about the poor as the disciples expected him to be. What I like about it, though, is that Jesus appreciated the woman's gift. He called it a beautiful thing. He seemed to be saying, there's a time for extravagant gestures, and if there ever was one, this was it. She was preparing him for burial. She understood sacrifice and the beauty of extravagant love. Amen. Jesus knows what's in someone's heart and what they're thinking. He knew why that woman was doing what she was doing. She knew she was a sinner. And she was, basically going there crying to Jesus, like, save me. Save me. And of course he did. And then, don't sin no more, he would say. Okay, let's see what your homework is for tonight. What's the most extravagant thing you've ever done for Jesus? Was it a generous gift you gave someone in his love? Or your time, your uninhabited worship, your surrender to his will? What beautiful thing could you offer him today? Or offer someone else to show Jesus' love for them today? People really enjoy that. Somebody could be having a horrible, horrible day. And then there'll be something like you put it under their door or send it in the mail to them or something. And they get it and it'll just cheer them up and put a smile on their face and make them feel, better that someone cares, that someone cares. So everybody pick your animal. We're going to the animal devotion. Pick an animal. Smokey out there. Sure, you got an animal? Fish. Sure was picking a fish. What do you guys pick? Layla? Okay, I'm not sure what this one is. I think I found it yesterday. Yeah, I know what it is. Okay, let's get into it. The story is the Devotions by Sandra Clifton. The Bible verse is Isaiah 40, verse 31, which says, "They shall mount up with wings like eagles." And the story is called Provision. Sorry, the devotion is called Provision. It was the first week of spring. My husband Terry and I had gone to a lake resort to do some walking. To our dismay, an unseasonable snowstorm with heavy winds hit the area. And we were forced to stay indoors. As I gazed out the lodge window, I noticed a young boy attempting to launch a kite in a snowstorm. Oh my goodness. That's sad. I've never seen that in my life. This kid was trying to launch a kite in a snowstorm. Is that even possible? Unfortunately, the rough, icy winds didn't cooperate. The boy's paper kite was being whipped about, tearing in various places. Nope, it don't work. I watched the fragile kite twisting to the left, then to the right, and down into a fluttering crash onto the snow-covered parking lot. I had felt just like that kite that previous winter, tossed about in every direction by my emotions, as I gave care to my beloved Terry, who was struggling through chemo. No matter how hard I tried, I was just like that paper kite, fighting the wind, about to crash. My attention was suddenly drawn to something moving far above the doomed kite. It was a brown and white bald eagle. It's a bald eagle. Bald eagle. The same turbulent wind was hitting at the eagle, but it overcame the wind's current by tucking its massive wings under its chest. Once through it, the eagle soared upward, then glided ahead full speed to its destination. I stood at the window, aware that only God could create such a creature, endowing the eagle with the miraculous abilities to survive such resistance. I realize this same God has endowed me with my own human provision to survive my faith in God, that would not only move me through life's turbulent spots, but also lift me to soar like an eagle. God has dealt to each one a measure of faith. Romans 12:3. God has dealt to each one a measure of faith. All right, let's put Smokey back in there.